Hello, I'm Holly. I love books, I love plants, I love cats, and I love to talk about it. Welcome to my brand new YouTube channel. Primarily, the purpose here is to have an outlet to talk about books and give my poor husband a break from me rambling on and on about whatever I've just read. So I thought, let's put it on here, if nothing else, so I can just get it out somewhere, and maybe you might be interested in my thoughts and opinions on books. It's not necessarily I want to do a bunch of spoilers or anything, but I do want to do more than just talk about what the blurb of a book says. So, um, I figured a good place to start is the fact it's summer, and Summerween is going on right now. Pretty good baseline for my type of book is exactly a Summerween spooky kind of a read. I love a spooky book, not necessarily gore. I wish I could do slashers, but I'm much more into a spooky ghost story, a good thriller mystery kind of a story. I also just love a good fiction read sometimes. But primarily, you will hear me mentioning stories about witches and haunted manors and magic and cats. There's usually a cat familiar, and it's a trope I buy right into. So I thought maybe a good place to start with this video is some suggestions of what I've been treating as audiobooks of what I think of as cozy witch murder mysteries. There's quite a few collections of these that have been printed in the past couple of years. Um, I have difficulty with audiobooks usually. I'm much more of a hard copy girl, but I do also, I do a lot of work where I can listen to an audiobook while I work, and it took me a while to figure out what I can do as audio, and simple, cozy stories are it. So I have read through 6 different series about witches and murder mysteries. And I want to give you some suggestions on which ones I liked, what worked and didn't work for me. Never giving away big spoilers or big plot points, but saying a little more than might be on the blurb of the book to help you decide whether or not it really is something that interests you. So without further ado, let's get going. The first book I tried was Brownies and Broomsticks from Bailey Cates. This was ultimately a DNF series for me. It's about Katie Lightfoot, who moves to Savannah to help with her aunt and uncle's honeybee bakery. So you get all the nice little cooking vibes and the descriptions of the smells and the tastes of food, and that's nice. Honeybee Cafe was also named after the aunt and uncle's cat, so again, I'm a sucker. However, there's a love triangle that's like immediately brought up, and it's not my thing. I'm not into these push and pull dramas and insta love and this infatuation 2 different guys have with this person with no real background to it. It's hard enough for me to believe insta love once, much less twice for this one person. So there's just a lot of focus on that part of the story, which I didn't care for. Also, Katie, discovers that she's a witch when she moves to Savannah, and so she's supposed to be discovering her powers and learning about them through the coven that her aunt is a part of, because of course it's a family thing. Her aunt's a witch too. So I liked the coven members. In fact, that was probably the biggest reason I stuck with this book more. I liked the coven. I liked they each had their specialty in magic and learning about that. So I was in it for that. There was a murder mystery where her uncle was, of course, a suspect, so she has to get involved and help the local police figure it out. It was okay. It was okay. that mystery portion of it and the reveal and everything for a simple, cozy little audiobook story with witches and magic. Great. We're good to go, except for the love story. So I went ahead and I trialed the next book in the series, Bewitched, Bothered, and Biscotti. And I think I was really the only thing bothered about the book. Um, the love triangle just came right back on, and it was so consuming to the story. I just, I just couldn't care less. And then I was really getting aggravated with Katie, the main character, who's, again, supposed to be just learning her skills. And she's just constantly pulling other people in to do these little adventures with her to figure out who the real murderer is in this story. And of course, the people she always has to come along are one of the two love interests, though she swears she just doesn't want to get into a relationship yet. She's still getting over a bad breakup, and yet she's constantly calling these guys, pulling them into her circle to do things. And I just found it very inappropriate. It's obvious they wanted something more. It's one thing if you both know your friends, great, enjoy. But it's just obvious. They wanted more, and she was happy to keep using them while she's on her little adventures and pulling them into very dangerous situations and just assuming that, oh, her magic will be able to get her out of it. And then, of course, her magic does just keep appearing, and it's just, I want the education and the mistakes and learning about a magic system. And yes, I get that this was just a little cozy mystery book and it was never going to be big world building, but I needed more than that, especially again when most everything came down to really who was she going to end up with. So I DNF'd the series after those two books, but it made me realize that there were a lot of other series about this too, so I went forward on my journey. My cat is meowing at the door. Hold on 1 second. Okay, internet, meet Mortimer, one of my 4 cats. Let's see. Anyway, like I was saying, I then went into trying the Must Love Scones and Secrets from Maisie Magel. So this one was fully out a fantasy. It's starring Rosalind, a pixie who also owns a bakery. Can you sense a theme? And she lives in Moonshine Hollow, and a in disguise undercover rune elf prince comes through, and he wants to live with people not knowing he's a prince and get away from that and be among the folk. And it's a very tired trope for me, honestly, but it was a magical world and it was fun and again lighthearted for the kind of book I was looking for. So this undercover prince elf guy, Bjorn, he appears to help fix a broken magic in the village that the unicorns are displaying. Yes, there are unicorns. Like I said, fantasy to the max. What I would say makes this one unique is that it is a fantasy with spice. So you are going to get some spicy scenes in this book, and I'm all for a good spicy scene. No problem for me. It was really just that the whole story was kind of juvenile to me. I just wanted a little bit more. It wasn't really engaging for me. So spice wasn't my problem. It was actually that of all the ones I read, it was like the most juvenile one, even though it's the one that had spicy scenes. So, but if my library had more of them for me to listen through or check out, I may have tried continuing with the series, but they didn't, and I wasn't invested enough to spend my own money to keep going with the adventure, so I called it a day, but give it a shot if that sounds interesting to you. Then I tried Bait and Witch. Angela M. Sanders wrote that one, and this one, totally the winner for me of the series I read. It's part of the Which Way Librarian mystery, and She's a librarian, the main character, Josie Way, and she ends up in Oregon to run a library in an old Victorian house. Check, check, check. She ends up discovering that she has these magical powers. A stray alley cat comes along who ends up being her familiar. Check, check. She is starting this new position as a librarian in Oregon because she's on the run from having overheard a scheme when she was working at the Library of Congress. So she's trying to hide from killers who are going to get her before she can testify against them. And so she scurries off to this little hidden location and falls in love with the townspeople. And I enjoyed all the different characters in the town. I liked getting to know them. I was engaged with her, and I adored what ended up being her magical skill. She has magic with books. She can recommend the perfect book for anyone. If someone comes in asking for a book about car repair, she'll know what they really need is a book on vacationing to Paris. I'm making this one up, but it's that sort of a thing where she can perfectly pair a book with a person. She just knows what they need from a book, and the books talk to her, and she gets this feedback from them. And at the end of the day, it's working with the books that ends up saving her and just bringing it all together. And I just love this idea of a person having magic with books. So that total winner for me. There was a love story too, but it was just a very kind of side portion of it and a more realistic story that's happening. So I bought into that too. I'm absolutely going to continue with this series. I have not gotten the second book yet. Well, technically, I got the second book. I haven't read the second book. But yeah, great series. Highly recommend. Then I tried, as another audio, Sprinkles and Sea Serpents from Danielle Garrett, and that's part of the Sugar Shack Witch Mystery series. This one was pretty good. It's Rosella Midnight, who, after losing her job, goes back to live in her hometown, which, wouldn't you know it, is an entirely magical town where common folk aren't allowed to go. It's called Winterspell, and her parents own a bakery. It's just getting pathetic at this point, but they own a bakery, and she helps work at the bakery while she's getting her feet back under her. And here's something I'm going to give away that is not in the blurb of the book, but I think was very important to my enjoyment of the book, and you learn it very early on. So her magical gift is being able to talk to animals. And you would think that would be so great. At least I did. I'm like, why was this a secret? But in the book, there is a reason. It's actually considered more like a curse, possibly. And so she's been kind of shunned by the town. And so it was very hard for her to go back and try to reassimilate into the town. But upon doing so, she ends up getting to help in this mystery of 3 missing women. And the town is blaming a new sea serpent that has appeared. But she knows it's not the sea serpent because she could talk to the sea serpent. So it's about her figuring out what really happened while getting to talk to animals. It was some immature writing. In fact, even in a little intro blurb that you can read, there's a quote of, "Faster than you can say hocus pocus." It's kind of cringe. There's cringe lines in it. Some of the things the animals will say too are just a little... There's moments where you're just so aware that you are listening to a not a super refined cozy witch story, but you're in a cozy witch story. So go with it, have fun with it. I will be continuing with this one and try out another one. Also, love interest. Again, not bad, not great. There's a little at the beginning I'm not super into. It was supposed to be a bit of a frenemies thing, but not really. And yeah, I don't know. I've read worse. I didn't really care, but it didn't detract from the story a lot for me. And then the last one, it was actually a novella. It was only a couple of hours, a little over 2 hours long, via an audiobook called Chilly Cauldron Curse by Lynn Cahoon. Um, yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing with this series. It's it was quick, so give it a shot if you want. But for one, there was no curse. It's called Chili Cauldron Curse, and literally the only thing about it is there's a chili contest in the last like couple pages. That's it. There's no curse. There's no cauldron magic happening. There's just a murder mystery. They figure it out. It's pretty anticlimactic. There really wasn't much in the way of magic that I noticed. There was a cat. There was a little bit of magic that happened to the cat, which was like truly the only kind of standout spot for me in the book. Um, the characters, I mean, it was only a couple of hours long, so I know you weren't going to get a lot of character development, but there wasn't a lot to go on for me. Um, they weren't even really likable, quite frankly. I didn't really get a feel for the main character, but like everybody around her, just I don't know why we would be engaged with any of them. But it was a novella. That being said, you know, as I finish other series and I'm looking for another audiobook and it's a long day of work, I could see myself going ahead and trying one of the full length novels and see what I think. It wasn't bad, it just was not engaging for me at all. But, I don't know, the curse of the novella. However, I don't even really believe in that because, quite frankly, some of the best books I've ever read are novellas. So, you know, maybe me. Well, that is it for the books that I have tried out as a sweet, cozy murder mystery with witches and cats. Um, Give them a shot if you're interested. Easy enough to read through, have some fun. Um, Comment if you're so inclined below if you have anything to add to these. I have a whole other selection of videos I've got planned to do. This was just kind of a quick and easy one I could get out of the way, kind of like the books are quick and easy. This is a quick and easy video. I've got some bigger ones planned that are featuring more of Appalachian horror that are set in the summer. I actually just was in North Carolina and was inspired to really dig into a couple, so I've got a collection of those I'm going to do some reviews on. Just general Southern Gothic and Southern horror, I got that. I've got some not bloody slasher Summerween suggestions, as again I'm a person who can't really do a lot of blood and gore, but I love getting freaked out, so ooh, I'm a fun one to please. But I've got a number of videos more lined up in my head that I want to talk about, so I'm gonna put it out there. Maybe you guys are interested. Check back later if you are, and maybe you'll meet one of my other cats. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.